is more specific than x is greater than z. So we want to be as specific as possible, and that's why we want to keep this form instead of the other form.
Do you hear what I'm saying? That it will still be greater?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We don't want to generalize unless we really have to, so we want to be more specific whenever possible. Yep. Any other questions about this part? Okay. If there are no questions, we move on. How do you think line 23 relate to line 24? How do these two lines relate to each other? Yep.
Plus 23 equals pre-24.
Exactly, because they are right next to each other. They are basically a part of a sequence. So as a result, pre-24 equals post-23 because they are in a sequence. This stuff is all in the notes. Okay, this is nothing new. It's all in the notes. This is only basically the first time I talked about it in the class. Okay, any questions at this point? Nope. Okay. So the next thing we can do is to say, okay, well, now that we know what is pre-24, we can try to derive post-24. So we say, what exactly is post-24? Okay, that's the question. So we use those three steps again. Okay, we use step 1, and we ask the question, does the right-hand side of line 24 refer to, okay, let me pose it as a question. Does the right-hand side of line 24 refer to the left-hand side? The right-hand side of line 24 is x, the left-hand side is y. Does x refer to y?
Yeah.
Does x refer to y? Does x as an expression mention y? No, it does not. Okay, the answer is no, it does not. Okay. Okay, so the answer is no, which means I do not have to take the other steps anymore. So if you cannot apply the substitution rule, the only thing left for you to do is to apply what I call the forget rule. Okay. Do you guys still vaguely remember that sometimes we have to forget certain components of a precondition? That was the first example that we used to illustrate, the pre and post condition stuff. Yes, kind of. Okay. So that means we need to forget components of pre-24 that mentions anything about, in this case, y. Okay? Because we are not changing x. Everything that we knew about x is still okay. But stuff that mentions anything about y, I don't know whether they're true anymore because I just changed the value of y. Okay? Is that okay? If you look at the precondition, if you look at pre-24, pre-24 is the same as post-23, and it states that y is less than 2 at a time. But after the assignment statement, I would have no idea whether that relationship is still true or not. And as a result, that component has to go away. In this class, the way we express that is the follows. So we say post-24 is based on a forget operation applied to pre-24. We are forgetting all the components that mention anything about y. But at the same time, we can also say that we now know one thing that we did not know before. What do we know now?
Y equals x.
Y equals x. Very good. So then the next thing we want to do is to expand what is pre-24. Pre-24 is post-23, which basically is this mess here. So we copy and paste the entire mess into the forget thing, specify that we are forgetting components of y, and still state that y equals x. Now remember, and y equals x, this part here is outside of the forget operation. This notation, forget blah blah blah, comma, variable name, is simply saying that we're forgetting components inside the precondition of line 24. Anything that mentions anything that mentions y will be forgotten. So the next line is just copying whatever is left in pre-24 which does this component of line of pre-24, does it refer to x? Does it refer to y? Nope, does not refer to y. How about this one? Does it refer to y? It does. So that means we only get to keep this component. The other component has to be forgotten. So now we say x minus 1 is greater than z. Will still be true because we didn't do anything to x. And we cannot say y is less than 2 anymore because we just changed y. But we can say at this point that y does equal to x. Okay, and that's it. That's the end of post 24. And since I only ask you to derive post 24, this will be the full answer, the entire answer of the ungraded assignment. Do we have any questions at this point? Yep.
What about this y less than 2?
Hold on a sec. Let me just add a title first so that people can easily differentiate which part of the assignment we are talking about. Okay, go ahead.
What about y less than 2? Well, it's not referred to y, that's why we're just forgetting.
Y is less than 2 refers to y. And I just changed y. Y is now x. We don't know whether y is still less than 2 or not at this point. The post condition of line 24 has to be true every time we're done with line 24. Okay? Pre-24, okay, where's pre-24? Pre-24 is post-23. Pre-23 is, post-23 or pre-24 is simply saying that x minus 1 is greater than z and y is less than 2. Does it say anything about x, whether x is going to be less than 2 or anything along that line? No, x can be anything. It only states how x is relating to z, but we don't know how z relates to y. We don't know how x is relating to y. So just knowing that y equals to x does not mean that we can confirm that y is less than 2 after we change the value of y to x. And anything that we cannot guarantee, we have to get rid of it because the post condition has to be true all the time after line 24 executes. Is that okay? The precondition is a guaranteed condition before we execute a specific line. The post condition is a guaranteed condition after we execute a particular line, regardless of the values of the variables. Is that okay?
I just have one quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
When you talk about the inverse mechanism, you're talking about minus plus and then divide and multiply, right?
Yeah, divide will be undo. It basically is an undo operation. Can you undo that operation? Some operations cannot be undone, even though it does mention the variable on the left-hand side. I can give you one example. 0 times x cannot be undone. If I say x equals 0 times x, there's no way, starting with x equal to 0, there's no way to reverse back to the previous value of x, because anything times 0 is 0.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why step 2 is to say, okay, but can we actually find an inverse for that function? Because if it doesn't work, then you have to use the forget rule again.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Which module has the steps that we take?
The module in the notes would be. It will be in section 4, the pre and post conditions. And if you look at constant assignment, this one specifies the forget operation, okay? And then the other one specifies the substitution operation. Okay. Are we okay so far? Okay.
What is that symbol?
This wedge symbol, it means and.
And I saw one that from an earlier example was like this, W something X.
That's different from. That is not equal to. Yeah, those symbols. We introduced those symbols back in. Let's let's see. Let's find out where we talked about that. Too many browsers. We introduced those in conditional statements. If you go back to conditional statements, it introduced a whole bunch of symbols like the comparison operators. It introduced the not equal to, okay, because I cannot type the equal symbol with a slash in it easily using a text editor. So many times I would use less than, greater than to represent not equal to.
And then the arrow signifies the equals, right?
Sorry?
That's where it's right here. Or when you were doing the equals.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you're saying it equals?
This is an assignment operator. The less than dash is the assignment operator. It means we are updating the left-hand side with the right-hand side.
So how did you get the y equals to x?
Because we just changed y so it does equal to x. That's the effect of that statement. Yep. Okay. Any other questions about the pre and post condition, quote unquote, assignment? Yep.
And when we're writing our answer, we have to write step 1, does the right hand side to the left hand side?
You have to sufficiently explain the rationale. So, since it does not really take much time to type up step 1, the right hand side does refer to the left hand side, I would just do that.
All right.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Because in this class, it is not just the final answer that I care about. It is the steps. How did you get to the final answer? That is actually more important than the final step. Okay. Are there any questions at this point? Before we move on to conditional statements, the pre and post conditions of a conditional statement. No questions? Okay. Did anyone read ahead of me? Like, read up the entire pre and post condition module? Okay, well, maybe people just shy and don't want to let me know. Yes, I read the entire thing. Well, I do want to show you something here. I can go to participants, and one thing I can do is to look at the last time somebody accessed the website, such as, well, this student moved on to my other class. So she's no longer, in this class, so I can use her as an example because, there would be almost no activity from, in her account in this class. So what I can tell are a few things. I can tell, when was the last time, she accessed the Moodle website. I can go in, and I can go to activity report, and I can actually tell whether she clicked on and viewed any one of these topics. So I can see that she viewed developers and algorithms exactly once. She had not reviewed variables, expressions, and sequences, conditional statements, loops, nested statements, and she had not obviously reviewed pre and post conditions. But that's fine because she's no longer in this class. I just forgot to take out her entry in this class. But I can do the same thing to basically anyone in this class. In other words, if I see someone turning in homework assignments that's like, no, this is not exactly what we talked about in the class, I can go and look and see if that person actually reviewed the material, before doing the homework assignments. The other thing I can also do is to go to activity reports, and I can go to all the way to the bottom. Not all the way to the bottom, I guess. And just click all logs, which gives me a very nice picture of the activities of this particular student. She did a whole lot of stuff on September 2nd, but has not done anything ever since. Okay, so in other words, I don't really want to, or nor do I have the time to police people and just look at all these graphs for all 40 students in every single class. I really don't have the time to do it, nor am I interested. But it is important for you guys to remember that you have to review the material. Okay, it is important for you guys to review the material.